Lord Boros from One Punch Man and Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho, if nothing else, share one key thing in common: a penchant for combat and an unshakable proclivity to throw hands and squabble. So what would happen if the dominator of the universe crossed paths with a spirit detective? Would Boros leave the match still on the look for a worthy opponent, or would Yusuke give him everything he is looking for and then some? Well, today we're going to find an answer to the question and assess the scaling and feats of both characters. Lord Boros, to me, is an interesting case study in power scaling because he's a character that many people assume to have been power crept by the later, more impressive feats of the Monster Association arc, but in reality, Boros should scale to a great deal of these showings. This isn't to say that Boros' own feats in isolation aren't impressive, but at the same time, by no means should his stats be capped to his multi-mountain level moon kick or scaling vaguely above the relativistic attacks of his lieutenant. If you look at the portrayal, it is quite obvious that Boros is intended to be superior to characters like Tatsumaki. Boros vs Saitama was hyped as a battle of the strongest, and this is while Tatsumaki was literally present, physically and figuratively, under their fight. So we should absolutely scale to and above the multi-continental feats of Tatsumaki and Psycho Sorochi. This too applies to speed, as he should realistically scale the Flashy Flash, Platinum Sperm, and Garo's faster than light speed feats. After all, Boros and Garo before his God Amp are intended to be rivals by both One and Murata. This should make Boros' meteoric burst stats multi-continental and a few times faster than light. Now many may wonder how this could be reconciled with the potency of Collapsing Star Roaring Cannon, which many read as being only multi-continental based on the manga statements. Now admittedly, I used to be one of these people, but in truth it is possible for wiping out the Earth's surface or ruining the Earth to require over multi-continental output depending on how it's done. For example, superheating the atmosphere, melting the surface, and boiling oceans would net moon level. Incinerating the surface would get to straight up planet level, and evaporating the oceans on top of that instead of merely boiling them would be planetary plus. To clarify, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't jump to assuming that this statement inherently means Boros would automatically be doing these things. It is pretty vague. However, that vagueness goes both ways, and since we already know Boros' regular stats should be multi-continental, it could very well be the case that Collapsing Star Roaring Cannon actually can achieve these things, and it being able to do so would make more sense with the established scaling and framework of the series. Multi-continental may be the more intuitive assumption, but at the end of the day, nothing is strictly capping Collapsing Star Roaring Cannon at this level of AP either. So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to place Boros at this tier with his strongest attack. I don't know if it's just a trend on YouTube for Togashi's work to be underrated in scaling circles, but like Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho is insanely slept on, and likewise is rarely given much justice on YouTube. By virtue of Yusuke having way more appearances, and thus way more scaling and feats to pull from than Boros, on top of a lot of misconceptions surrounding Yu Yu Hakusho, this section will be a lot denser and longer than Boros's. Because quite frankly, the downplay is just crazy. So let's get right to it. An important concept to understand before delving into Yu Yu Hakusho scaling in earnest are demon classes. In essence, demon classes refers to a power classification system divided into 5 distinct categories: S-Class, A-Class, B-Class, C-Class, and D-Class. Now, unlike other manga series using a similar concept, Yu Yu Hakusho is insanely consistent with its power ranking system and how it factors into the narrative. We see the B-Class Toguro, who is using a fraction of his full power, bully and outclass the D-Class Yusuke to the point that he has a mental breakdown. We are then told that a single A-Class is more of a threat than an entire horde of B-Class. Moreover, the power of Yusuke, who was low S-Class at the time, was orders of magnitude above even the absolute strongest A-Class. This implicates a bare minimum disparity of 100 times between the highest end of A-Class and the lowest end of S-Class. S-Class itself is a catch-all classification which accommodates massive tier gaps. For example, though the 3 kings and the subordinates are all S-Class, the subordinates are described as mere sparks compared to the inferno of the kings. In that same arc, Yusuke beats 4 S-Class by himself after training. Bear in mind that a year prior, just one of these very S-Class were able to get the upper hand on Yusuke, and while significantly nerfed in the human world to boot. It is highly important that you keep this hierarchy in mind when watching because it puts these feats and the implications of these feats into perspective. It is stated that King Enma's anger usually sends earthquakes and natural disasters into the human realm, and keep in mind that King Enma normally resides in the spirit world. Koenma then says that if Yusuke fails his mission, King Enma's rage will be the biggest it has ever been. He foresees violent and widespread destruction on a scale that would even trump the Great Kanto earthquake, to the point that Mount Fuji itself would erupt. And this would merely be the collateral of King Enma's rage. The destruction Koenma describes would range from large island to small country level, only accounting for the damage that would be caused in the human realm alone. Considering that this destruction is coming from a King Enma that resides in a completely different realm, along with the context that this raw power amounts to a mere temper tantrum from King Enma, this showing is extremely impressive. Relative to the demon classes, King Enma is sitting in around the A class range. We know this because of the existence of the Special Defense Force of the Spirit World, which is also around A class, and King Enma calls on them as the last line of defense against truly powerful foes. For example, against Sensui, King Enma saw no other option to stop Sensui than to summon the Special Defense Force of the Spirit World. What's more, this Special Defense Force is deployed and equipped to stop threats that cause international destruction within the human world. And remember that power of this caliber is still orders of magnitude below that of even low S class. But now we get to the infamous showing from Sensui himself, implicating that Sensui cannot release over a fraction of his power without causing stress to the entire planet. Now, there is a lot of debate about this feat because it has literally been lost in translation with the many different scans flooding around forums. However, if we were to break down the Japanese itself, the original meaning could be more accurately discerned. The clear implication being that Sensui releasing even half of his power would level the entire planet. To back up this interpretation, Yusuke inquires what is stopping Sensui from going all out, and goads him into destroying the planet. Sensui replies claiming that he only hates humanity, but he loves the sky and the wildlife of the earth, of which he does not want to destroy. This tracks as Sensui only feels comfortable going all out when he is dragged to the far larger, more durable demon world that isn't at risk of destruction and that he also could care less about. And the verse does go out of its way to make stuff like this consistent. After Yusuke beats Sensui in the demon world, we later see Genkai straight up confirm that Yusuke could obliterate the world on a whim. This naturally lines up with what we've seen of Sensui, almost intentionally so, since the implication here is that Genkai fears Yusuke could be corrupted as well and threaten the planet. Mind you, the Yusuke that is talking with Genkai would only get stronger when returning to the demon world. Compared to Ryzen, Yusuke is so weak that Ryzen can literally beat him silly while sitting down the entire time, even no-selling Yusuke's ray gun, the most powerful attack in Yusuke's arsenal, period. Bear in mind, Ryzen is the weakest of the three kings of the demon world, inferior to the likes of Mukuro and Yomi. However, after training and beating 4 S-Class by his lonesome, Yusuke is able to swap hands with Yomi himself, giving him the fight of his life. Now, to understand how fast these characters are intended to be, it is important to understand the makeup of the Yu Yu Hakusho universe. There are 3 different spheres: the human realm, the spirit realm, and the demon realm. In this context, the human realm as a whole not only refers to Earth, but also accounts for space. Not only have we seen characters launch into space and still be within the boundaries of the human realm, but Togashi describes each of them as parallel planes of existence that cannot be reached with current scientific technology. The fact that they are parallel planes of existence further implicates that the human world accounts for more than just Earth and realistically accounts for just the entire universe. Additionally, Botan says that without a proper spirit guide, the journey to the spirit world could lead to a realm of darkness where even light cannot reach. Beyond that as well, we know that there is a hyperspace or a space between each of the realms and the worlds, which further suggests the human world accounts for more than just Earth, considering that hyperspace is located at the far reaches of each realm, connecting one to another. And within this hyperspace, there are visible stars and constellations. Now, there are methods to shorten the physical distance you need to cross to travel between realms, like portals. However, even a direct portal or door from the human world to the demon world still requires you to cross the hyperspace between them. You can't just hop in some portal and just magically end up in the demon world. That literally does not exist in the verse, which is precisely why the human world and the demon world are separated by a barrier in hyperspace, which stops certain demons from entering. This only works because in order for anyone to get from one realm to another, you must cross hyperspace, and crossing hyperspace would inherently require faster than light speeds by a great margin. Furthermore, we've seen several characters travel between realms with physical speed alone, which would necessitate traveling through space, through hyperspace, and into the other realms. We see the Special Defense Force travel from the spirit world to the human world with raw speed, and we also know they pass through hyperspace. And again, these are all just A-class. Pu, a physical manifestation of a portion of Yusuke's spiritual energy, has crossed between the human realm and the spirit world in a very short time frame. Throughout Yusuke and Sensui's entire fight, Pu was lagging behind them by a significant extent. This is all just insanely consistent, and we could even look at characters like Chapter Black Hiei, whose Dark Dragon could Boros Sensui across hyperspace, all the way to the barrier in the middle. If not for Sensui's Holy Chi and the barrier, the dragon would have carried Sensui all the way to the demon realm. Even moving across hyperspace is massively faster than light, let alone the aforementioned feats of characters moving across entire realms and universes. And Hiei, still as an A-class, can then absorb this dragon to amp his own combat speed. Not only does this and the Pu instance demonstrate explicit scaling between travel speed and combat speed, but Yu Yu Hakusho characters abuse travel speed in fights rather consistently, so all of this tracks. And to hammer this home, consider that even D-class can possess light speed attacks, weaponizing and firing photons. And if you remember the difference between classes, this would only make massively faster than light speeds that much more consistent. End of series Yusuke would be superior to even the Ryzen Amp Yusuke from the Sensui fight, so he would be stupidly fast. If that wasn't enough, Yusuke has abilities that are also pretty underrated. Of course, he has his trademark ray gun, which is essentially a blast of spirit energy Yusuke fires from his fingertips, akin to firing a bullet. The potency of this attack is at least twice, if not many times stronger than his physical blows. Yusuke has demonstrated exceptional accuracy with this technique. For example, during his first fight with Hiei, Yusuke anticipated Hiei would dodge his attack, so he calculated the angle and ricocheted his spirit gun off of a mirror to hit Hiei from behind. Against attacks that are too strong for even a ray gun, Yusuke has been able to use rapid fire to increase the potency. He used this to stalemate an attack that was more powerful than his ray gun. Beyond ranged attacks, Yusuke is advantaged by his consistent ability to get stronger as fights progress. Now, this is not to be mistaken for the infamous shonen trope following the same principle. Yusuke getting stronger is a canonically confirmed and consistent trait of his that allows him to win fights he has no business winning. Yusuke's early training with Genkai was all about training to surpass his limits and draw forth latent power in stressful situations. Yusuke's fit of rage allows him to summon forth energy when he just prior admitted he had no energy left. After knocking Yusuke out, Genkai states that with more concentration and with a stronger will, Yusuke will be able to summon more power. This basic principle has been a staple in many of Yusuke's fights. For example, Yusuke's fight against Suzaku, where this flashback is actually from. Yusuke admits Suzaku is too strong for him, and that is before Suzaku went on to split into 7 equally powerful bodies. Naturally, Yusuke is overwhelmed, subdued, and tortured via electric attacks. However, in this precarious situation, Yusuke focuses his mind and recalls Genkai's training, before summoning the power he needs to ragdoll 2 of Suzaku's bodies, overpowering their grip on him to boot. At this point, while Suzaku is fresh out of power, Yusuke is just getting started and wails on him with his spirit shotgun. What's crazier is that even after this energy boost comes and goes, and after some more fighting with Suzaku ensues, Yusuke admits he really is out of energy this time, which is once again proven to be temporary when Yusuke pushes himself even further, to the point that he can stalemate Suzaku's strongest attack, and Suzaku even admitted he had never seen such raw power before. This is a stark contrast to the beginning of the fight, where Suzaku felt he only needed one hand to beat Yusuke. To cite another instance, during the Dart tournament, Yusuke was clearly established to be weaker than M1 through 3, to the point that their aura was invisible to Yusuke because he was so weak in comparison. However, over the course of the fight, Yusuke surges in power and gets strong enough to the point that he can see their aura and that the tables are completely turned. Dr. Ichigaki calculated his team of M1 through 3 had a 99.95% chance of winning against Yusuke's entire team, Yusuke, Genkai, and Kuwabara. However, Yusuke's amp alone decreased these chances all the way down to 52.725%, which should really just speak for itself. In Yusuke's fight against Yomi, we are told that the fight lasted a staggering 60 hours, and over the course of that period, Yomi admits Yusuke got stronger, to the point that Yomi was no longer his superior by the end. So Yusuke, all in all, is more powerful than Boros' collapsing star roaring cannon as a baseline, way faster than Boros, And on top of that, his ranged attacks himself that are well above collapsing star roaring cannon as well. And as the nail in the coffin, he could get even stronger and stronger as the fight progresses. Boros quite frankly just gets a good old-fashioned beatdown, and his regeneration will be taxed by Yusuke's relentless offensive. So yeah, Yusuke wins this pretty easily. It's easy work for him. And that should do it. Hopefully this was informative for the Yu Yu Hakusho side of things, because I haven't really seen Yusuke's power growth or the speed meta truly covered in detail. And let me know what y'all think in the comments, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and please let me know what verses and battles you'd like to see covered. With that said, easy out.